So this video was supposed to be a lot more upbeat, more inspiring, but had a very difficult and heartbreaking day today, and the enemy is busy. And just when you get to a point, or when I get to a point to where my faith is building, or I'm furthering my faith, the enemy steps in and may even get a hold of, people try to infiltrate yourself, or get a hold of people that that are close to you that aren't in Christ, and use that to attack you. And then that can get you out of character, with the accusations or what it may be. And it's kind of ironic, the shirt that I'm wearing, it says "Be Light," which is difficult to do under those circumstances. But when you're in Christ or with Christ, it makes, when you find that joy in suffering, because that's what to be expected. And if the enemy is attacking you, then you know that you're on the right path, especially if the enemy steps up his attacks. So yeah, it could be discouraging, but when you have your faith in Christ, it's inspiring as well. When you know your enemy and you know where the attacks are coming from, and it's not personal. It's powers and principalities that we're up against. So yeah, but with that being said, I wanted to explain the miracle that I witnessed when I was a mid-teen in the 90s. That was the very rock solid foundation of my faith. Like I explained in my first video, I didn't explain what the miracle was, but I did say that I did witness a miracle, a celestial miracle, if I wasn't exactly specific. So, like I've stated in the first video, I've always, as a young kid, I've had a relationship, with God. I used to speak to him just like I'm speaking to you all now. And then, of course, once I joined the service, kind of went straight off the path. And I was that one sheep, that the Lord left, when he left the 99 to go search after that one, because I was the one that had a strong relationship with God. And then I just veered off the path severely. Which brings me here today, almost about 40 years later. And the fact that I found Christ last year, and have a relationship with Christ. But the miracle that I saw, the celestial miracle, so as a teen, like I said, I used to talk to God like we're talking now, and I used to sit on my roof and pray. And I used to just talk to God, just talk to him about everything and anything. But this particular night, it was a heart-to-heart prayer. It wasn't an Our Father or Hail Mary or any of the prayers, because I grew up Roman Catholic. It wasn't any of those prayers. It was just a talk, a heart-to-heart. And I was basically spilling out my heart to God and just apologizing for the state that the world was in, the fact that he created people to love, and we just messed it all up. And I just felt so heartbroken for God. And and it was a like it was a long prayer. It's probably the most meaningful prayer I've ever said in my life, and most meaningful prayer yet ever since then. Most meaningful prayer I've ever said in my life, and the most, like I said, the most meaningful prayer ever since then. It's just I can't explain it. It was just I spilled out my heart. It was a true. Um, it was just a true and very raw, just kind of I don't just spilling my heart out to God. And prior to that, I was always asking God to show me a sign that He was listening, that He existed. And you do this if you're listening. This night when I had that prayer, it wasn't about me. It was about Him, and I did not want to hear. I did not want to see a sign or hear a sign. I just wanted Him to hear me out, and I felt that I shouldn't ask Him to prove Himself to me. I should be proving myself to Him. So spilled my heart out and said, Lord, I don't want to see a sign. I don't. I just wanted to get that off. I just wanted to speak to you from the heart and say how sorry I am for how the world is, how everything is right now. And so, and it's crazy because I feel horrible because I don't remember the exact date. I did for decades, and I guess I was so confident in the fact that since it was such an impact event that I would never forget that date. But of course, as I got older, memory started to slip, memory started to fade. I didn't write it down. I started to forget the exact date. And something was telling me when I was reading a book by Randy Kay, and it was about celestial signs, and I prayed on it, and the date, I think June 7th or June 17th of 97. It was the summer of 96 or 97, but a specific date had stood out, and I wrote that down. And so I would like to believe that was the exact date that it happened, but it was the summer of 96 and 97. So anyway, it was around 7, 8 o'clock at night. I say this prayer. And this is the first time other than when I had an interview with Mike McKenzie that I've openly shared this miracle with the public, because it was such a personal experience that's hard to believe that nobody would really believe or understand or feel the same way or even share the experience, because one, it sounds, I wouldn't say it sounds insane, but it's impossible. God does the impossible, but it just sounds, and I'm sure it sounds like something somebody would make up, but that's why I didn't tell many people, maybe 5 or 6 people. Mike McKenzie during my interview was maybe like the 6th person that I shared it with, until I, of course, made it, it was public. But I'm sharing it now just as a testimony to the realness of God and how real He is, and how He is the same God that would speak to people even back in the days of the Bible 2,000 years ago. He's very, very real, because I felt it was my Moses moment. I call it my burning bush moment. So I say this prayer, and I lay my head back on the roof. Like I said, I'm sitting on the roof. I used to climb the fence, climb my roof of the house, and just look up at the stars and talk to God. But then, of course, this night I said this prayer. So I say the prayer, I look back, and I'm looking at the stars. It was a pretty clear night. Can't see every star in the sky. It's not like in the country. It's right outside the city. So, but there wasn't a whole lot of light, from the city, making the stars not really visible. But it was a clear night, so you could see the stars in the sky. Lay my head back, strangely enough, the church bells goes off. There was a church maybe 7, 8 blocks down the street called St. Simon Peter. Peter being the rock. I also found that kind of coincidental too, that church being Saint Simon Peter, Peter being the rock, and that moment was the rock solid foundation of my faith. So I lay my head back, and not even a few seconds later, or after the church bells go off, I thought, okay, that's neat. I just happened to finish my prayer or my talk right when the church bells start to go off. Like it was like a, I don't know, like a sign, like he was listening. So I thought that was neat. But the sign that I saw, so I'm looking at the stars, and we've all seen, and I've seen space junk across the sky, satellites or stars move across the sky as such, at a slow pace. But two stars stood out at this moment. So I said my prayer, church bells go off, and I'm looking in the sky, and I see these two stars. So it's as if I had a star on each one of my fingers. And the stars start to move in a counterclockwise motion from my vantage point. So I sit up because I can't believe what I'm seeing, and it's just odd that I'm seeing these stars actually do this. I sat up like, okay, am I seeing what I'm seeing, in real time? And these stars, I kid you not, they start to move around in a counterclockwise motion like this. At this speed, the speed I'm moving my fingers, and you have to think it may look slow to how it's perceived to me or us, but in space that far away, they have to be moving at an exceptional speed and in such a coordinated fashion, which is so odd. And then once they stop, the star on my left starts to move away from the star on the right, and that was it. And I knew that moment was real. And this was before smartphones, so I couldn't snap a video of it. We didn't even have cell phones. We had a pager at best. And there were no photos being taken with that thing, if you know what a pager is, or a beeper. And I knew that moment was real, even if I tried to dismiss it or I try to explain it away, even after I experienced it. That's another thing about us, about humans, is that we like to dismiss a lot of things, even if we've seen a miracle. It may not change us immediately. We may still fall off the path or just doubt it. I was a doubting Thomas too, because some years later I was like, well, maybe it was this or maybe it was that. But I knew that moment was real to me in that time because I remember my reaction to it. And my reaction to it, as I'm seeing it, I was so shocked by it that I had my hand over my mouth and I'm in tears and I'm crying and I'm saying, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I was extremely emotional because the timing of everything, the prayer, the meaning of the prayer, the church bells that went off immediately after, and then me seeing those stars move in that fashion. It was like it was like a wink from him because I asked him not to show me a sign. I didn't want to see a sign because I just felt like that wasn't very nice of me to ask that. But I felt like because of my pure heart during that prayer, that he wanted to let it be known that he hears me, that he heard my prayer, that he hears me, and that he's real. And ever since that moment, even when I've gone through decades of agnostic and dabble with atheistic viewpoints, I'll always go back to that moment, that celestial miracle, I call it, that I saw. And there was no way that I can explain it. And when I came to Christ last year, and the sign that he showed me that he was real through that sign, which is also in my first video, I know how he speaks to me, and I know what signs he shows in order for me to believe, because he knows each and every one of us and how to speak to us and how to reach us. So I it's just crazy that it led up, to this moment, how literally everything arrived full circle, just like the stars that I saw that many years ago to now, to where I have a relationship, not just a belief in God, but a relationship with Christ that just happened recently. And there are some other things too. I was going to say to that, how I believe we really are approaching end times and why I may think that, but I'm going to save that. I'm going to save that for another video shortly. But because it was a hard day too, a really hard day, and I wanted to be in obedience with God and get out this video to share the miracle that that I saw, that I witnessed. So thank you for taking the time to hear me out and watching this video. If you did watch, like I said from the beginning of the video, you don't have to like or subscribe. I'm not doing it for these reasons. This is for His glory and to get out my testimony and share my stories of experience and faith, to just let people know how real God is, especially if you give Him a chance. But thank you all again. And until the next video, take care. God bless.